This is House Planning Help episode 248. Hi there, I'm Ben Adam Smith, and this is the podcast for you if you're interested in self-build, because I'm exploring what houses we should be building in the 21st century and trying to break down the major roadblocks that may get in our way. Coming up in this session, my guest is Jan Chadwick, one of the residents of Marmalade Lane. This is Cambridge's first co-housing community, and we talked about this scheme before in the podcast. Not for a while, though. Now they are in, so it's definitely an update today. Before we kick off there, a quick learning on MVHR. You know that I live in a passive house. That's what we've been podcasting about all these years. And I'm in now, and I've been here for 6 months. So I've been through a winter. But of course, now we're on the other end of the spectrum where you've got to start looking at what are the temperatures going to go to in summer. Our house has been modelled that it will never go above 25 degrees. So we've been close to that already. That was when we came back from some time away and thought, wow, yeah, it's really clocked up a little bit. It didn't go over though. That's the interesting part of this. And so that got me thinking on when do I need to do this big switch of the summer bypass? That's when your MVHR system dumps the heat. It says, actually, we've got enough heat now. So I got in touch with our guru of all things mechanical ventilation, Alan Clark, and he just basically said, leave it on auto. It's because it will likely switch in and out of this summer bypass as it sees fit. And he says that my particular unit, the Zender, gives you a choice of indoor temperature, so cool, normal, warm, to choose when to open the bypass. And these aren't fixed temperatures, degrees C. It works around adaptive comfort, tracking the outside temperature to tweak the set point in summer and down in winter. Isn't that interesting? That's why I'm passing it on to you in case you're going down this road as well, that actually my big job I was getting ready for, I don't have a big job anymore. Okay, let's get to today's podcast. And this is really a follow-up episode. Midway through 2016, we chatted with Chris Wilson about how K1 Co-Housing Group had been set up and what it hoped to achieve. Fast forward to today, where it's a thriving community, Marmalade Lane has been born. And this is the first time I've seen a co-housing development go all the way through. I used to work up in Cambridge, so I've seen actually the bigger development, because this is just a small part of a huge developer scheme, some of it not so inspiring. So this is the jewel in the crown, really. I know the local council were really keen to make this happen. So now we're going to find out what did happen, where's the updates? And I was actually attending an open day with a number of other journalists, so I managed to sneak in a chat with Jan Chadwick, one of the residents there. And I started by asking Jan how she became involved in this co-housing project.
Okay, well, we became involved, must be more than 5.5 years ago now. We were in Cheshire. It was 2013, and we read an article in The Guardian about co-housing and the benefits of community as you get older. We were in a small village in Cheshire, not far from Knutsford. We felt that really, as we got older, we didn't have enough of a community that we felt comfortable with. So, having read the article, we then started exploring co-housing. My husband did his usual thing. He's a business analyst, went on the net, found out stuff. And we visited Spring Hill down in Stroud some months later. And we went for one of their immersion weekends, where you go and stay with a family and you eat and you have a social, and then you do some community work with them. And after that weekend, we really felt that, yes, co-housing was for us. But where was going to build before we died? Because it is as rare as hen's teeth.
You've said a few interesting things there. First, let's talk about community as you get older. What support are you hoping to get from a co-housing community?
Neighbourliness. So we're a mixed community, so we're multi-age and 11 nationalities. We all know each other. It's a case of not expecting support, but knowing that your neighbour is there to look out for you. And if you're stuck, give you a lift, get you some shopping, come and have a chat. There's places to go to have a cup of coffee, tea. We have shared meals. So it's neighbourliness, not care, if you get what I mean.
But there is research, I think, almost to show that it does work. You can often live longer before you have to go into care if that was necessary. Absolutely. I'm just intrigued because this has come up a few times when I've interviewed people.
Absolutely. There is quite a bit of research out there that talks about older people I mean, I'm in my later 60s now. Older people who are engaged with community stay, if you like, younger, in inverted commas, for longer, because they remain active both physically and mentally. They're engaging with multi-ages, so they stay more youthful and happier in their older years. And I think that's what my husband and I absolutely want, and what we're getting here already. We're building some great, fantastic community events here, and we're all working together to do the stuff that we need to do. Last weekend we had a street party because it was Easter, so the kids had an Easter egg hunt, they made hats, and then we had bring and share lunch. This coming weekend we're having a May Day celebration. We have a monthly celebration where we celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, significant things, like my husband retired 3 weeks ago, so that's pretty significant. So we have that on a regular basis, and it's really showing that the proof is there, that people want this kind of environment. But you can't top down it. You've got to build it from the bottom up. And we've been building it, as you know, for many, many years.
But you also said that at that point of thinking, I want to do this, there are very limited opportunities. So was it just relocate? We have to relocate where a scheme is really going to get going soon.
Totally. Absolutely. And we had no problem with that. We've moved around a little bit. My husband's from New Brighton in Molesey. We met in Manchester. I'm from London. We moved to Cheshire. You know, we're not scared of just up sticks for what we want.
So there are a couple of things that you could have done. You could have gone to an existing co-housing community, which do have a turnover. So were you very keen to be part of the initial journey?
We were looking for what was actually out there. When we went to Spring Hill, they didn't have any properties, so we put our name on the waiting list. Lancaster was sort of in their build, almost finished process, but we didn't. I said to my husband, I don't want to go further north and west with the rain. I want to go somewhere drier.
But you're in a passive house.
It's not that. It's just, when you're getting out there and you're walking and you're enjoying yourself, it would be nice not to have sort of 10 months of the year that are wet, which is what happens when you live with the rain tail in Manchester area. So when we researched, we found that actually K1, Cambridge Co-housing, was actively seeking members. They had a piece of land, they had a plan, they had a project manager. We could see that there was an active way forward that would result in a co-housing community, whereas a lot of communities don't even have land. You can do nothing unless you have land.
That is definitely a big part of it. So what was it like joining a community that was well underway? Were you accepted easily enough, or
we have no criteria.
No.
We have no criteria.
I'm not saying you needed criteria. I'm saying what's it like? Because obviously a lot of decisions have been made.
It's challenging. It's fun. Decisions can take a long time to come to fruition because we have consensus decision making, so that everyone can either support or at least accept a particular position or something that we want to do. When we joined, it was a group that had gone from 9 core people, which had been there for quite a number of years with people moving in and out, to suddenly, I think we went up to like 36 over the Maybank holiday, which is what the council wanted to prove, that this idea of designating this slice of land for co-housing was the right move, because people were prepared to buy properties on it. It was always going to be a purchase build, So we joined online. We had a conversation with people. We actually, about a month later, came down to meet Chris in this field, as it were.
I was going to ask you, because I've actually seen it when it was a field, and actually most of the development, I think, had been completed at that point. So what was it looking like? Was it completely a field, the whole thing? Or
you can see now we have the belt of trees and scrubland through the middle, which we're retaining. So basically it was that, a scrubby, rubbly field.
Now, this could be a good point to talk a little bit about the design, because seeing those mature trees out there, was that almost a starting point of how the development might progress around
Absolutely. It was really important both from us and for planners, because these trees have TPOs on them, to retain the belt. It's also an ancient ditchway. There was some research done on that. So it was key to how we wanted to see it designed, really. So the design kind of had a number of different morphs over the period of time that we worked both with Cambridge Architecture Research and Adam Broadway as our project manager. And then as we moved into the appointment of our developer, we then worked with Meredith Bowles of Mole and his team. And this has been a very long process of getting us to what I think is a great design that absolutely enhances community, enhances the environment, gives us the southern open aspect that we wanted, which no one else on Orchard Park has. It's all courtyard built with the parking in the middle.
One of the funny aspects when I arrived here just now, I almost thought the grid that had existed would be the way it would all be oriented. Of course, that was stupid because it has to be south-facing for Passive House, but that's just interesting to break that mould within this massive development.
We've broken a lot of moulds, and the design guidance, we had the Making Building Beautiful commission here the other month, so impressed. And actually said, well, actually, you've broken a lot of the design guidance, but you've come up with something hugely better. And that
was always the hope for this, though, wasn't it? This particular space. Now, quite a lot of different parties involved here, so it's not just architect, contractor. Can you just explain a little bit more about how they've all worked together?
Well, initially we had a relationship with ourselves, Cambridge Cohousing Limited, and the City Council. And the City Council helped us get the project off the ground with our project manager providing the payment for him initially. And then we had money from the Homes and Communities Agency that we applied for to work out our client brief, which was done over a number of workshops with Cambridge Architectural Research with Jim Ross. We did that over months and months of working with members and Jim and his team and Adam to get the brief, which is 60 pages long, right. And then we worked with the city again to develop a tender for a developer. So once we tendered for a developer, we then obviously had a selection process of which we were intimately engaged with. It wasn't just about money, it was about quality and money. So the council have got the money they wanted for the land. We've got the quality we wanted for the building, the houses and the environment. And then when we worked with town, we're working with Johnny and Neil, Neil Murphy and Johnny Armstead, who were new developers at that time, called Town. They created a consortium with Trivselhus, who is a large Swedish house builder, part of the Sodra group, which is a massive organisation in Sweden of wood growers. So we worked with Trivselhus, who provided the frame. It's a closed frame construction. Johnny and Neil from Town, who facilitated it. Meredith from Mole Architects, who took the outline design that we had, worked with us to get something that was more for us than we initially envisaged, and that actually ticked the correct boxes with planning, because obviously we had to work with South Cambs District Planning Authority to make sure that it ticked their boxes.
So what sort of things were they looking for? I mean, they weren't giving you free rein, which they can sometimes are more pioneering.
Nobody gives you a free pass on planning, and there is no free rein. So we had, obviously, we worked with Bonnie from the council, who came to one of our early workshops when we were selecting the final developer. And there were some ideas that she brought to the table around the design guidance. We then challenged some of the design guidance, and we got what we wanted because it seemed to be a better design. It has been a long, hard journey. We've had to have a whole transport plan because we wanted our parking on the periphery. We didn't want 2 parking spaces per property, which was what the idea was. We now have 1 plus 0.25 of a space for visitors.
You also have, if I remember rightly, is it an electric bus route or something that goes past you?
Oh, we're right on the guided busway.
So that's very handy. You can't dispose entirely of cars if you're in the middle of nowhere.
No, we're on the guided busway, which is fantastic. Obviously, we're right next to the A14, so if you're travelling distance, and a lot of our members, do work away. A lot of our members work down in London, so they pop on the train. They hop on their bike down to Cambridge North, which has been open for the last year, and go down to London on the train. We have academics and various other people who do that. We've got the guided busway, so hopping into town on that is brilliant. 15 minutes into the centre of Cambridge, but a lot of us use our bikes, and we've got 146 bike spaces. I have a bike.
You're in Cambridge.
Yeah, absolutely. What's not to like about a bike in Cambridge? So we have families with cargo bikes. We have a lot of really keen cyclists, and I mean keen, hundreds of mile cyclist riders. We have the leisure cyclists. We have me. I'm a commuting type cyclist. I go do my shopping on my bike and go to the hairdressers on my bike and pop into town on my bike. So it's a fabulous location. I mean, it really is brilliant.
What did you want from the buildings then? Co-housing has a common house and its various, sometimes apartments and so forth. So what was it going to be for this development?
The key issue was that we wanted it to be multi-generational. Therefore, we wanted properties that would kind of cradle to grave you, almost. So we have 1-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, 3-bedroom houses, 4-bedroom houses, and I think we've even got 1 5-bedroom house. The original members were able to configure the design for their particular property they wanted to reserve in a way that suited them. And then, obviously, we haven't sold all the properties. The remaining properties were configured by Meredith from Mole and his team. We wanted to make sure that if people wanted to move within the site, there could be opportunities to move. You know, if you're upsizing or downsizing. We wanted to make sure that the common areas were of a sufficient size that would accommodate what in actual fact is a small village. We've got 42 properties. We'll have 100 plus people on site when we're fully sold out, plus kids. And we already have I think we're running 18 kids now, and we've got 2 pregnancies, so we're going to grow. We wanted to have a garden that we could be used as a productive land. We wanted a wild space. We wanted to grow stuff. We wanted to interact as a community, so hence the common house for events. We're sitting in one of our quiet rooms at the moment, so we wanted retreat rooms, we wanted meeting rooms. Everything is movable, so we've just taken delivery of 45 wonderful chairs which go on a dolly and can move into a cupboard. We'll soon be buying tables which will roll into a cupboard, so that the big space downstairs can be used for dancing, music, events that we want. So the flexibility of the space, I think, is key. We've got 3 bedrooms upstairs that members with smaller houses, or even those who don't have a spare room in their house because they've got a lot of kids, can use for their guests. It's already, booking out for Christmas. Would you believe?
Got yourself a hotel here, almost.
No. It's for our families and our friends here.
Is it all Passive House standard?
It's not Passive House. It's a standard developed by Triskelhouse, which is their own, if you like, version of it. It's 70% of Passive House. So far, we're finding them excellent. We really are. I mean, we're in one of the apartments, hardly ever have the heating on. Our construction is a little bit different. We're not made of the closed frame. We are a building of CLT, cross-laminated timber, massive insulation in between the timber and the interior walls, cladding on the outside. It was absolutely fascinating watching it arrive, because it arrived in big, huge walls and floors from Austria, where the wood has come from. So massive bits of building arrived, and it's a bit like Lego, gets bolted together. Each flat is like a box that went up and joined together with the common house. So we have a lift access for this particular building, because we also wanted these buildings to have longevity. So the apartments are a Lifetime Homes compliant, as are the bigger houses are also Lifetime Home compliant, so that we can actually, some of us already have a wet room, but can actually put in hoists if we want to. All the doors are huge, so they open in a way that you can get a wheelchair in and out of the property. So we're looking for really sustainable longevity and flexibility.
Can you describe then what they looked like?
Yes, well, the lane and the houses look like a typical terrace. They look like something that you would find potentially in the Netherlands, because of the way that they are are built with very big windows, but they also chime with older terraces in Cambridge. So we wanted to sort of tick that box of being in keeping with Cambridge, but also being modern and also being very light and airy. So if you look at them, you might think you're on the canal in Amsterdam, potentially. I don't know whether you feel like that. It looks a little bit like that. So that's the houses. We have 3 terraces of houses. We have 1 apartment block with a gym and workshop underneath, which is on our south-west corner, and that has 2 apartments above it. And that had to be designed as a landmark building according to the planners. And so that looks rather different. It's of grey brick. It has bits of brick sticking out. I mean, to see it, look on our Facebook page or website and you'll see that kind of landmark building there. The common house itself is brick clad with a metal roof. The apartment block which leads on from the common house is a brick face construction that looks onto the garden, but a timber face construction that looks out onto the roads and walkways and car park. The walkways are very wide, which is lovely, and they all have inset balconies, very large windows, and they all overlook the garden.
So that moment when you move in, we've talked to one of your neighbouring co-housing projects, Cannock Mill, which is just trying to get past that final hurdle. So what challenges do you face when you move in?
When you move in, obviously it takes a lot of time getting your own house sorted out. We moved in 2 tranches, so we had a whole load of people move in just before Christmas and a whole load move in just after Christmas. So managing the removal vans was interesting. So we had a plan where we staggered the moving in and the completion with Savills. We have a lovely young woman called Jess who has been with us all that time, doing all that work from the point of view of the developer and Savills as their agents. The other challenge is then making it work, getting the common areas set up. If you look around you, you'll see a lot of this stuff has been donated from our members. So our key issue was, first of all, reuse and recycle. So we said, okay, stuff that you think is worth keeping, that you don't want in your own house, if you're prepared to donate it, bring it, and then we'll have, when we have time, a selection day where we actually go, yes, we can use this in this particular area or that in that particular area. And we did that. We had a community work day, which we'll be doing once a quarter. We did that about 3 weeks ago. So everything you see is donated. We've had to buy a few odd things. We created a budget for that. So everyone who joined had an investment to make, and that investment covered the costs that we'd already had to go through, because at one stage we were paying for our own project manager's costs, and there were other costs, of course, that we had to incur. And also we have our members investing, I think our investment is £2,100, and that goes in a pool for furnishing the common house. Because it's an awful lot that you don't think of. When you move in, you go, we didn't buy that. We need one of those. And it's amazing.
And that's on top of your own house. I know perhaps you're maybe downsizing from where you've been before, which is why you've got the extra furniture.
Yes, indeed.
But
yes.
You're doing 2 lots of buildings to think about, so I can totally understand that. Yeah. And how long have you been in for now, you personally?
4 months nearly. Yes, about 4 months.
Is it what you expected, or has it really just not stopped yet?
It's exceeded expectations. It really has, both from a community point of view and from the point of view of how happy we are with the construction, the fundamental construction of our houses, the quality of the houses and the energy efficiency. At the moment, we don't know in the apartment blocks what energy is costing us because we run off a main plant room. And we don't have a supply yet, so we're waiting for that to happen.
And I've seen you've got quite a few air source heat pumps around.
All the houses have air source heat pumps. We have a major plant room for the apartment and this common house, which is also a heat pump. It's a different type of fuel usage, but we have actually we're right ahead of the curve because we have no gas on site, and we always said as a group we didn't want gas, we wanted electric. so that we could go to renewables. So we can always head to a renewable supplier. And now, of course, the government is saying new builds, no to gas, you have to have electric. So we were absolutely ahead of the curve there. Pretty proud of that.
Very nice. Well, I really appreciate your time today. I'm looking forward to having the full extensive tour now. But Jan, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Head online to take a look at the show notes that accompany this session, houseplanninghelp.com/248. We always provide this as a reference point, really. You've heard the interview, so now you can reflect on it. Photos of the completed scheme. Also, you can leave comments or ask questions in our show notes. You can also do that on social media if you prefer. We'll link you across to their website, houseplanninghelp.com/248. Finish on a quick hub update. I always like to tell you about the new videos going in. So at the moment, we're concentrating on my own build as the in-depth video case study. Our hub members get a new episode every month, and gradually we're working our way through. So this is quite a key moment, actually. And it's funny because my wife features in this particular episode, and she's just so excited to see the block work out of the ground. It's just another part of the process. However, it feels like, is the house finished yet? It's one of those moments where you walk on and think, oh my goodness, because you can see the physical shape of the rooms. It's almost up to ceiling height, so 2 meters, and it just comes on in leaps and bounds. You also get that funny thing where you look around the rooms, you think, is this big enough? Have I made this room big enough? Or maybe another room feels too big. It's just, at this stage, it's so hard to gauge what that final space will feel like. And it does change. I think later on when you paint it, it will change again. And when the roof is on and so forth. So that is interesting. We also talk about site meetings. You get to sit in on one of our site meetings and look at some of the things that we discuss. Now, if you're not a hub member, I have to ask, why not? We're trying to help you on your self-build journey. You've got to help yourself. Give us a try. You don't have to stick around forever. We tend to find, though, that the yearly members generally get the most out of the hub because they're more interactive, they're more dedicated. But look, if you want to be a monthly member, it's like a gym membership. You don't have to stick around. Just get in there, get the value that you want. houseplanninghelp.com/join to find out more. You've got all the learning materials, the courses, the interactive conference calls we have monthly as well, our forum too. Check it out, houseplanninghelp.com/join. There we go. Thank you so much for listening today. The House Planning Help podcast is produced by Regen Media, content that matters.